It is presented by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is Ron Magill. We'll get to him in just a second. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Barry Bonds in 2004 reached base safely 376 times in 373 at-bats.
That can't be right.
Yeah, it is.
With the walks, he walked so much. He did walk a ton. So his on base
373 at-bats, reached base safely 376 times.
I saw it.
Not in the Hall of Fame.
Walks don't count as at bats, so it's
That's
like
right.
Yeah.
So he had what the stat is. He had 363 at bats and also had 373 at bats and also had 376 walks because walks don't count as at bats.
Well, no, he just got on base 2 times less than the number of at bats that he had.
3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That includes
because
hits and all that.
Yeah, so the hits and the walks are all included in that, but the walks don't count as at bats. So then the number, it isn't, the way that it is positioned is that every time but 3 times he was on base, but that's not actually the case.
No, but I think it's actually, the way it's positioned is he was on base more than he had at bats. That it would be mathematically impossible the way it's positioned.
I have another mathematical mind bender. Because I saw this stat on a Twitter account, and I just flatly said, that can't be right. And then I Googled it, and a lot of people are citing this, and I still have my doubts. But the gap in total bases between Hank Aaron and second is 12 miles. Hank Aaron traveled 12 miles further than second place in total bases. I'm not sure how this works. I think Barry Bonds would have a say in the matter, but that is a stat that is out there.
It's 90 feet at a time. 90 feet at a time by total bases.
Hammer and Hank. In 2004, Bonds walked 232 times. His on-base percentage was .609.
He had 617 plate appearances, but only 373 at bats. So with the 232 walks, and I presume like reaching on an error or something like that doesn't count as an at bat.
Hit by pitches.
Best ever.
Reaching on an error does count as an at bat. Yes,
Right.
it does.
Counts against
that's
you.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will.
Hit by pitch.
We will get
Ron
to.
gets it.
No, hit by pitch does not count as an at bat.
Right, exactly.
Incidentally, his OPS that year was 1422.
The Seattle Times, in citing this Hank Aaron stat, said Hank Aaron had a margin of 722 more bases than the runner-up Stan Musial. Easy for me to say, Stan Musial.
Stan the man.
Yeah, which equals 12 miles more.
We will get to Ron Magill and a
Usual.
really horrible death at the hands of a snake in a second.
I said it like Andrew Luck. Stan
Like
Usual.
me.
The stat I saw the other day is that Bonds and Clemens faced each other 8 times, and Clemens hit Bonds more than Bonds hit Clemens.
Rockets.
And there was never they faced each other, but it was all walks and strikeouts, and Barry Bonds never actually ended an at bat swinging at a pitch.
Oh, it's a level playing field, considering the PED situation.
Ron, you've been on television this week going through a top 10 list of dangerous animals as Shark Week gets upon us, and we will talk to a Shark Week type guest later in the week. But Mike Ryan has had trouble finding the top 10 list that you're being asked about. So before we get to that, I just want to ask you about a man who was strangled unconscious by his pet snake last week. He died at a hospital afterward, but authorities came and shot the snake in the head. How weird is this? How rare is it? How rare is it to die at the hospital afterward? How strange is it to have to shoot a snake in the head? All of it. What happened here?
I don't know. It's strange that they go and shoot a snake in the head. Yes, it's strange that a snake kills a person in that way. I don't know what the autopsy report was. Was the guy overdosed on drugs? So is the snake, wrapped around him? Did he actually die of asphyxiation? Did he die from some type of drug overdose?
The coroner's office says an anoxic brain injury, which means probably lack of oxygen to the brain. No.
It could be, yes, it could be. And, certainly the snake is capable of doing that. So it's not an impossibility. And this is one of the reasons why, in the state of Florida, for instance, it's illegal to have these big pythons and such. But people need to be aware that any of these large constrictors that gets around your neck, it can kill you. I mean, that's the bottom line. So this is not something that totally surprises me. However, it is extremely rare that it happens.
Mike Ryan says there are too many dangerous animal lists on the internet. He does not know the ones that were given to you as a top 10 list by CNN and others. I don't know how much you remember from the top of your head, but go through.
I do remember.
If you want to go through your top 10 or object to their top 10, have at it. Tell us what you got.
No, I don't object to their top 10. I think that the reason I was called was because it was Shark Week and everybody was saying, I can't believe sharks were not on this top 10 list. The bottom line is sharks are not the most dangerous animals. The number one most dangerous animal was the mosquito. Of course, millions of people die from mosquitoes all the time. Number two most dangerous animal, believe it or not, was human being. So that's a given that a lot of people don't take note of. And then it became things like a snail. There was a snail that creates this parasite that kills thousands of people every year. And then there's a type of little worm that creates death in a lot of third world countries, thousands of people every year. Then there's a bug called the assassin bug. It looks like a little beetle that can create a virus, injects a virus into you that can kill you. I think that the big thing on the list was that the small little things are the ones that can kill you the most, except for humans. And then number 9 was elephant, number 10 was hippo. So, these are things, no bears, no tigers, no lions, no sharks. These are animals that people always look at because they're so, sensationalized in the media, when the reality is people die from much smaller things that they don't pay attention to quite often.
Ron, are there animals that kill for fun? Like if there were some animals that felt like they were left off the list or they were too low on the list, could they decide, you know what, we're going to kill more this year, so next year we're higher on the list?
I will tell you animals that kill for fun. I don't know whether they get upset because they weren't on the list, but domestic cats kill for fun. If you've ever watched domestic cats, they'll go out there and catch birds and catch mice and kill them. They won't eat them, and they'll bring them to your porch and leave them as gifts, but they're not killing to eat. They're kind of instinctively killing an animal and then leaving it. It's kind of an exercise for them.
Orcas also kill for fun occasionally, don't they?
I've heard that orchids play with food, but they do eventually eat it. They enjoy the challenge of playing with the food. You see them toss it around to each other, and quite a bit. It looks quite gruesome when you watch it, but more often than not, that prey is also eaten afterwards when the game is over. What is the assassin bug, Ron? It's some type of beetle. I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks like some type of beetle if you look it up, and it supposedly is a conduit for a virus that is extremely deadly to people. When you mentioned the snail, I had told you a couple of weeks ago that there was a county in Florida that shut down because an African snail was guilty of spreading meningitis, correct?
They put him on trial?
That's funny, Mike. Anyway, with the African snail, what it does is it can transmit meningitis, but more than that, it's just a massive snail that can cause a lot of damage to your house too. It eats stucco. It feeds on the calcium of stucco. It'll eat the plaster right off your house. The thing is an incredibly destructive little beast. What is the most annoying animal to have in the house or around the house, destroying the house? Is there something that tops termites or? No, I mean, everybody knows how I feel about roaches. Not that they're destructive. I just cannot stand roaches. They just, I hate roaches. No, but I'm talking about the destruction of your home.
Oh, you're talking about a 2-year-old.
My puppy.
Some people will tell you that, bats can get up into the eaves of your house and they produce so much fecal material that the acid can really damage your house. Not to mention the ammonia smell can be overwhelming. So if bats get in the wrong place in your house, that many people will consider somewhat destructive. But generally speaking, it's invertebrates, it's insects that do most of the damage.
Ron, I saw a video of a couple of gorillas fighting each other. What are some of the warning signs that one animal would give to another animal of the same species waiting to fight?
You speak about gorillas, Roy, and the bottom line is it very rarely gets to actual physical contact. Their challenges are all in body language. One of the first things they do is they tighten their lips. They tighten their lips and they look away and they look out of the side of their eye. They look really like, right out of the side of their eye with tight lips like that. And then they put their arms out and they make the hair stand up on their arms. So their arms look really big and they'll stand up with their tight and they'll arch their back. And that usually is a challenge to each other. And then eventually, if that doesn't work, they'll get up and they'll cup their hands and they pop their chest, pop their chest, and they'll run run by you and they'll try to get like a branch or something and swing it around. They make a big show. It's a lot of bark, but really no bite. It's very rare that they actually get to that actual physical conflict. And when that happens, it's usually just like a drive-by. They run by and they slap at each other. They make the contact, and that's where it ends.
Ron, have we had too much of a market correction on pro shark propaganda that's out there? Every Shark Week, I'm being told how not dangerous these things are. Yet every Shark Week special that I'm watching tells me and highlights incidents in which they are very dangerous. They seem rather unpredictable, and if I see one out there in the wild, I'm going to be scared. I don't think they're as safe as they're alleging.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something, Mike. Just the other day, I was out at the beach at a hotel called Faena, beautiful beach, and my wife and I are out there in the water, crystal clear water, and this
Baller. Baller.
Faena.
That is Tesla, this guy, man.
Anyway, we're
Already getting those political kickbacks.
And a fairly large nurse shark comes swimming by, literally within 5 feet of me. My wife screams in panic. Everybody in the water is, ah! And this nurse shark is just going by, doing absolutely nothing. Okay. And I told people, I said, this is a nurse shark. Let it go. Be lucky that you're able to see this animal just kind of going on its own way here through the water. It's not a panic situation. Mike, I've taken drone footage of literally 50 sharks, no more than 25 yards away from all these beachgoers without any problem at all.
Yeah.
So
Ron, make it a bull shark.
Yep.
Then what?
No one likes-
Okay, a bull shark has more potential to be dangerous to people.
Yeah.
Right.
You're getting out of the water if it's a bull shark,
But
aren't you?
Ron, the larger point is no one likes the guy in the ocean who's not afraid of the shark. Like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Respect the shark.
You got to
respect
scream
it.
when a shark comes around.
You got to scream shark and have a lot of panic
Right.
around you. That's how it goes.
From the man who screams when there's a gecko in his house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what you
A
do.
frog.
You scream, "Good night, nurse."
Thank you for clarifying.
Exactly right.
And it was a
Nice.
bullfrog, to be
Yeah,
exact.
he was trying to
Yeah.
paint you in a negative light.
Mm-hmm.
A frog. Okay.
You
Guys,
like that joke?
Yeah, that's
Good
pretty
night,
good.
nurse.
Good night,
Yeah.
nurse. Yeah, good night, nurse. That was an expression. Ron knows what I mean. Good night, nurse. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Hey, Ron, I have I'm going to give you a quiz here. I want to describe an animal that I'd never heard of and see if you can identify it. Okay, you ready for the hint?
Sure.
In Southeast Asia, there is a bizarre scale-covered mammal which has been called a walking pine cone and a modern
Pangolin.
day. That's exactly right.
Wow.
Oh.
Look
Wow.
at that.
I
That
love
is-
this game.
Nobody likes that guy.
5
He's got
seconds,
the
man.
answer before.
No, that's pretty
the-
good. And the sentence ends with an animal that could go extinct before most people realize it even exists. Tell us a
Yes,
little
Dave.
about that.
The scales, the scales of that animal are used as medicinal purposes throughout Asia, and they confiscate shipments, literally thousands of pounds of these scales, which, equals thousands of these animals that are being raped from the wild just to satisfy these old misconceptions and disbeliefs about scales being used as the cure to the next cancer or whatever they think it is. And these cultural beliefs that have come down generation after generation have led to the demise of so many animals, ranging from pangolins all the way up to rhinos.
Billy, why are you laughing back there? What is happening in the back row? Why is Roy roaring with laughter? What just happened?
Well, because when Ron got it so fast, we said, Greg should do another one now. And then over in the corner, they were saying, you should do an audio hint for Ron, and you guys should just make noises and see if Ron could guess the animal based on the noise
Name
an
that.
animal makes.
Name that tune
Yeah,
with an
name
animal.
that tune. So, Greg, make an animal sound. See if Ron can identify what it is.
Oh, God. What sound does a pangolin make? I have no idea.
They don't really.
They don't make a sound. They're silent like Basenji dogs.
But I guess you'd
barkless
probably
dog.
be able. We, with very few exceptions, would be playing sounds for you, and you would get most of them. Would you not, Ron? Like whatever sounds we were playing of the animal kingdom.
If you're playing sounds, yeah, but animals have such diverse sounds. You can have one animal that can make 20 different sounds, and many of them mimic other animals. So I would probably lose more often than I would win in that game, because you could easily collectively, select these sounds that would really not identify a certain animal. Certain animals have sounds that only they make, but a lot of sounds can be made by a lot of different animals that are similar. Okay, cow, I got you. Right.
Yeah.
That sounded like you were just curious or hungry. It was
Yeah,
just,
right.
it was just you.
Like someone enjoying dinner.
Maybe sensual, maybe you making a move in the bedroom. Ron, thank you for being on with us. If you want to contribute directly, there isn't a lot of red tape. You basically give your money, and Ron Magill will get it to the right people so that they can take care of the animals. Ron Magill's substantive endowment is something that we urge you to check out. Thank you, Ron. We will talk to you again next week, sir.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
See you around.
Stugotz, moving on here. So no commercial breaks. Let's just keep it moving. Go live. Go dangerous. Even though Lewis is having some struggles with the technical stuff, and Tony is hungover from birthday.
I have a question for him
Yeah,
next
good
week.
one. I mean,
What fossil do you think Ron would want wrapped in gold? Because he went to the Fayena where they have the what is it, a woolly mammoth that's in gold. So what's like the best fossil that you would wrap in gold?
How much is that? Was that a $10 million or $20 million absurdity? That's why I called him a baller at Fayena, because there is, it looks like a dinosaur, but I guess, yeah, that's what it is. It's a gold. It is a woolly mammoth, and it is solid gold, and it is encased, and even the casing for that is hugely expensive, because obviously you can't have anyone coming in either in hurricane or on any other time knocking out something that is a 10 or a $20 million piece of art. But that whole place is all manner of money. What's that woolly mammoth worth? Do you know?
When it was first installed in 2016, it was estimated to be worth $20 million.
Waste of money.
jeez.
Just waste. Like 15 Americas, man. Like waste of money. Get out of here. $220 million.
Obscene.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Have you ever seen it? I mean, it's incredibly impressive. I just stood there for like 15 minutes just looking at the thing.
It's a fossil of an
Wasn't gonna
extinct
move.
animal from prehistoric times.
It's gold.
Yeah, they took something, a rarity, and they wrapped it in gold.
It deserves to be in a museum.
I mean, Fayena is a museum to money.
Miami money, not just money.
But Mike, you leave that alone. I mean, seriously, it doesn't need gold. It's like the Packers helmet. Just don't touch it. I mean,
Just leave the woolly mammoth there with no.
This
it
one's
is-
more like the Notre Dame helmet.
Yeah.
It is
Georgia
excessive.
Tech.
They are right. Once you've got the woolly mammoth in a case, you don't really need to go the extra step of gold unless you're Miami.
It's also not an
Right.
actual fossil. It's a sculpture of the skeleton. I thought it was way too well preserved.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been the gold that helped.
Yeah.
I would think that the preservation of a woolly mammoth, if you were to find it somewhere, would be worth more than
That would be
$20
the
million.
most incredibly well preserved full skeleton of a woolly mammoth. I guess I was gullible there.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think
It's still 24 karat gold.
Waste of money.
It's maybe a weird use of gold, but it's just awe-inspiring when you see it.
I believe that both me and the audience were fooled by the same thing, thinking that Miami would have a perfectly serviceable bone structure for a woolly mammoth, and then say, not enough. Not enough to have it merely be that. We've got a dinosaur in the back. You've also then got to encase it in gold. I believe that people thought what I thought, which is that they took an actual woolly mammoth and draped it in gold, and that made it worth $20 million.
I could have went towards the bars.
Yeah.
You know,
Charity.
some cabanas.
Yeah.
Some more amenities. No, we're gonna put a
Improve
woolly
the
mammoth
schools.
fossil.
I
I mean,
think Fayena doesn't
right.
lack for that
Improve
kind
schools,
of
yeah.
stuff.
Drainage around the
right,
hotel.
teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Infrastructure. Yeah.
Drainage around the hotel.
Yeah, I mean, there's always flooding
lot of
down
flooding,
near the
yeah.
beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put in a
So,
pump, you know?
Yeah.
We should put a seawall in
Talk to
because
some politicians. Yeah.
Seawall.
to protect that woolly
To save
mammoth.
the mammoth.
That's how the
Yeah.
seawall's
And
going
all
to
of
go.
us.
We're all going to be on board that we need a seawall, and then an HOA is going to be like, no, I signed up for a beachfront view, and the seawall is going to get in the way of my view. And then it will get nuked.
Or is that HOA, man?
Stugotz, yesterday we did not get to celebrate what it felt like you entered the Radio Hall of Fame yesterday. It felt like you got
Part of me did. Yeah.
you got
yeah.
inducted.
Yeah.
Did they put Mad Dog on First Take yesterday just to celebrate on a rare Monday instead of Wednesday that he had gotten? I guess it's not yet inducted into the Hall of Fame. Just he qualifies, but not yet inducted.
No, he's in the Hall of Fame. They haven't had the ceremony yet, but he has now made the Radio Hall of Fame along with Susan Waldman, who's was a reporter for the Yankees and also the voice of the Yankees, I think, and probably still is, or one of the voices of the Yankees on the radio. So Mad Dog is in the Hall of Fame. He has not had the ceremony yet. I think he's in there twice. I think he's in there with Mike and the Mad Dog.
Oh no,
that show.
I think he was upset because he had not been in any way. I thought
Maybe.
that there was. Wait a minute, you're telling me you think Francesa is in and that
I think
Russo's not in?
I think the show got in. Like they got in together, and then he got in as an individual. I could be wrong on this. I've reached out to Chris Russo and asked him to the Hall of Famer. and asked him to join the show this week. And so I'm waiting to hear back.
Would you like me to empty the Suzanne Waldman file?
Oh, please.
Yes,
Roger
please.
Clemens is in George's box, and Roger Clemens is coming back. Oh, my goodness gracious. Of all the dramatic things I've ever seen, Roger Clemens standing right in George Steinbrenner's box announcing he is back. Roger Clemens is a New York Yankee.
Not that dramatic.
Clemens not in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
Wow.
It was all different before steroids. It was all like, listen to the drama leak out of that moment. Her enthusiasm was merited at the time, and wow, does it not age well?
Roger Clemens is in George's box, and Roger Clemens is coming back. Oh, my goodness gracious.
That was in 2007. He would have been 44 years old. That's 44-year-old Roger Clemens that is soliciting this reaction.
The Rocket.
What do you mean? It's the Rocket. It's Roger
He
Clemens.
was 44.
Wait a minute. You guys make arguments all the time around here. All the time around here about Greg Cote could kick field goals, thinks he could kick field goals at 65.
Thank you.
Athletes can be great at whatever age it is that you put them on the field.
Right.
Tom Brady right now, you say at 44, Tom Brady, you still expect him to win MVP at that age, do you not?
Yep.
Wasn't the over-under on Tom Brady this year, touchdowns, 35.5 or 36.5 touchdowns? What kind of insanity is that?
Did you see how he replaced Gronk?
Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Another
That
one
team.
of these Frankensteins that just turns around. That's just Cameron Brate by another name.
Just another tight end open in the end zone. I mean, that's what it is. Kyle Rudolph's going to have the best year Kyle Rudolph has ever had.
Right.
I mean,
Mike Francesa's in the Radio Hall of Fame, but it
okay.
doesn't look like Mike and the Mad Dog went in as a show.
Okay.
So now he will join him.
so now Doggy's a Hall of Famer, his rightful place. He is deserving of the Radio Hall of Fame. He really is. I mean, perhaps the most legendary show in the history of sports radio right after us. And then Russo started his own channel at Sirius XM. So
There's too many people in this Hall of Fame.
what do you mean?
There's way too many people in this Hall of Fame. If you go to the website, you have to break it down by letter, and there's like 6 different pages because they'll just do like 2 or 3 letters at a time. And the number of people in this Hall of Fame, like bees alone, there's like 80 people. There's too many people.
We'll
I mean,
take someone
like
out.
there are people who are popular in individual markets. There are probably people in the Radio Hall of Fame that like were only popular in Baltimore, but in Baltimore they're
Not Hall of
they're
Famers,
heroes.
No.
Radio's been a
Well,
been
Franklin
around for a
D.
very long
Roosevelt's
time.
in the Hall of Fame.
FDR.
Thank you.
Greg Cote says there are different kinds of Hall of Famers. He's
Correct.
saying there are universal first ballot Hall of Famers, and that Mad Dog, according to Greg Cote's estimation, Mad Dog has to wait a while.
Yep.
To
That's
get in.
exactly right.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
Marginal.
Mad Dog's a first ballot.
He's
Hall of
not,
Fame. He's Aaron
obviously.
Rodgers. I
Well-
mean, yeah, but he should have been treated better.
Ryan
I mean,
Seacrest is in the Hall of Fame. He's like 30 years younger than Mad
That's
Dog.
crazy.
I'm looking at the list right now. I'm not in it. I should be right between
You think you
Norman
were?
Norman Corwin and Frankie Crocker. Nowhere to be found.
You couldn't
Crocker.
tie Frankie Crocker's boots.
Or Corwin. That guy could lean into a mic. Wow. Grew up listening to him. Bing Crosby is in here. Look at
Yeah.
this. Wow.
Yeah.
Burbank. Gary Burbank.
He
Look at
just,
this. Jimmy Durante.
Dan, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame, I feel like. You don't think you're making it to the
Yeah.
Radio Hall of Fame?
we're not even
Do you guys
on
think
the,
Dan's making it to the
we're
Radio
not
Hall
on
of Fame?
the radio
He has to.
anymore.
Dan, you better hope you don't make it to the Hall of Fame without Stugotz.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Big
Oh, my
issues.
gosh.
Big issues. That's exactly the way it's going to go down, by the way. I
Right.
can't wait.
Median age.
I made the speech. I mean, can I sit with friends and family? I mean,
Median age on the shipping container needs to go down if both of us have a Jimmy Durante in our locker, Roy.
No, no. What is happening? Well,
Little Orphan
Shake your
Annie in
hand,
the Hall of
lady.
Fame. Lone Ranger in the Hall of
put
Fame.
it on the poll.
is Dan going to the Hall
no,
of Fame?
no.
Come on.
Have you ever said ha cha cha cha? You said wow a bunch of times, and somebody, a listener, I don't know who it was, did the math on what I miss around here, which is the cacophony of Owen Wilson wows. He has said in the movies, according to the math being done here, 3,500 words in 47 movies. That means he is paid $1,324 per word. He has said the word wow 102 times. Owen Wilson has made $135,000 on film merely saying the word wow.
Damn.
Wow.
Wow.
What a career.
Stugotz says damn.
No, I was looking at Elvis Duran. He's in the Hall of Fame. How is he still playing Elvis Duran?
Elvis
he's in his
Still
prime.
St.
Still
Patrick,
playing? Like,
yeah.
is it a stage show?
Yeah. I mean,
What do you
like,
mean?
Is he on Broadway?
I'm not certain he's deserving of the Hall of Fame, Elvis.
You made it sound like Elvis
syndicated.
Duran is in the
Wow.
Where do you have him playing? You have him touring right now?
He's part of that big morning show, national morning show.
Morning Zoo.
But he should be a Hall of
He's
Famer
nationally
before
syndicated.
I
He's
know,
all over
but
the country.
before Chris Russo and Susan Waldman. I mean, did you hear the sound we played?
Roger Clemens is in George's box, and Roger Clemens is coming back. Oh my goodness gracious!
Should I get Greg one?
He has one.
Oh wow, how about that?
Can you also get those? This is unbelievable. Stugotz is escalating this thing with Baselli and Jacksonville fans. He's egging Baselli on. And now Greg Cote is saying that I should put up billboards in Canton saying Baselli shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep, correct.
Just to agitate
Jacksonville.
Just to agitate Jacksonville fans the most. Tony Khan, head of AEW, is going to join us here in 20 minutes or so to talk about Vince McMahon and the state of wrestling. He is always good on the subject of wrestling, and he's a Jacksonville guy, and nobody from Jacksonville should be in the Hall of Fame. Can you get me the sound, please, before I put billboards up in Canton of how Tony Baselli actively ruin his Hall of Fame weekend?
I think you also need to do it in Jacksonville. I think that would upset Tony even more. Like, that's the hometown. That's where he played. He lives there now. I think you have to go Jacksonville.
That's funny. The last time we did billboards, Greg Cote made a very, very serious appearance on Cleveland television. They called him as a journalist close to LeBatard. And Greg Cote, this is one of the most embarrassing public media appearances of Greg Cote's life, that he would treat all of this seriously after we put up billboards. What a panicked situation this was. Do you remember how mad everybody at ESPN was?
Oh, I do.
So stupid. Listen to this.
Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but six. That's right, 6 of these You're Welcome LeBron Love Miami billboards spread across Akron. They cost about $100,000, and they were put up by ESPN TV and radio host Dan Le Batard, who lives in Miami. Well, the 4-letter network suspended him for 2 days because they say they had no idea what he was up to. Le Batard sent a text to a reporter in response to the suspension, which reads, "I guess ESPN didn't find it at all quite as funny as I did." Nope. And neither did people from Akron, like the LeBron James grandmother's fan club.
I did not like the billboard, no. Don't mess with our child. Don't mess with our child.
A Miami Herald reporter spoke to Le Batard and says we may be out of bounds on the sign's message.
Dan did it all in jest, you know. To him, it was all good-natured fun.
No matter what the billboard's message is, people in Akron think ESPN did the right thing by having Le Batard sit on the bench a few days.
Well, I think he did it underhanded then. You know, if they didn't know about it, they did the right thing by suspending him.
They said, that reporter said that Greg said that what you did was out of bounds, and the clip that they played, he said absolutely none of that.
Yeah.
He said that you did it in good fun.
Damn right.
From a landline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, thanks for protecting the show and Dan, Greg.
You know, I did what I could.
Yeah,
really.
you had to go out to the front line and take the heat for all of us.
I took the slings and arrows for you.
Yeah.
Do you think the LeBron James grandmother's fan club still meets?
Put it on the poll, Guillermo.
I do, actually.
I would join it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is dangerous. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it.
Well, there's sustainable growth. There's always a new grandmother.
Yeah, but I'm sure they lost some members. Though.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Whoa!
Wow.
I mean, you know, sometimes you have to retire. You know,
They
you
found
have
the
to
third
retire.
rail.
Like,
Retire.
Jesus,
Retire.
Because he went to Los Angeles?
Retire. Retire. Grandma, put it on the poll, Guillermo. Do grandmas ever retire?
Put up a billboard
Social
against the
Security.
grandmother.
They must have been meeting while LeBron was in Miami, because this is in reaction to him signing with Cleveland. And so they must have had some sustainability during the period which he was in Miami.
No, I think they're front runners, the grandmothers. I'll just say it.
Wow.
I think they met when LeBron was in town, and then when he went to Miami, they cursed his name, and then when he came back, all of a sudden they were meeting again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever received something more threatening than "don't mess with my child." from LeBron's grandmother.
I don't think that's actually his grandmother.
It might not be.
I think it was just a collection of grandmothers that liked LeBron.
Right.
I think you're right, Billy. We all learned a valuable lesson that week, that even though you talk about something openly on the air for 2 weeks and you tell your bosses repeatedly it's something that you're going to do, ESPN will still maintain they never heard you say it.
They weren't listening. They weren't.
So that is more threatening to you than Baselli threatening to punch you in the face next time he sees you?
Where are you with this? Because I see you.
He's mad at you.
But you're actively instigating this.
I'm not. It's your words, man. They're your poll questions. I mean, you're saying it, not me. He's reading it.
But it's a joke for our audience to get the Jacksonville fans mad who aren't finding any of this funny, just the same way that Akron's fans didn't find any of this funny. Billboards, sacrilege. Those I bought them for a month. I had to take them down after a day, and I never got my plane off the ground that was supposed to fly over the entire Akron homecoming with a "You're welcome, LeBron" banner behind it.
I was supposed to go.
Fly a plane over Canton. Please do it. Please, during the ceremony.
Baselli doesn't belong in the hall.
I dare you to do it.
Yeah. So you can have a direct flight, Stugotz.
Exactly.
Stu, I have an idea. Why don't you ask him, hey, I would like to send you a gift. And then you get his address and the distance between his home and the airport. Just every billboard that's on the way but it doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Bruce's shoulder was hurt. He entered that game with an injury.
If I thought this meathead wouldn't come down here and tear my head off for ruining his weekend, it's such a funny
it would take
joke.
him 10 seconds to kill you.
It would be such a good joke.
He would do you like Magneto did Wolverine. He'd just tear your skeleton out of your body. Spoiler alert. It's one of the comic book series.
I see
don't have
Baselli
a skeleton made out of metal.
just like banging him on the top of the head and then Dan sinking into the ground.
Yes.
Like a cartoon?
Yeah, like
Hammer and nail.
and then he just goes straight into the ground.
What's the name of that big red Looney Tune?
He could do that. I mean,
Just like one hand, and from up there, he'd be taller than me, and I would just keep getting shorter until I was just a head above the sand, and he stepped on it. Let's do funniest thing from the sports weekend.
Hey people, tell us what in the sport made you laugh hardest this weekend. It is a segment we call What Made You Laugh This Weekend. Ha ha ha!
funniest thing from the sports weekend is brought to you by CBD MD.
Tony, what do you got? What was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Dan, I love when elite athletes do things that the common folk like us do, and I loved watching Klay Thompson down a beer at the Dodgers game.
He was very good at it. He pounded a beer. He's having a fun offseason. A lot of people are now having the arguments of July, comparing Klay Thompson to players that came before him and yelling at each other. He's arrived in a place where he can be both underrated and overrated. It's where all champions decide. They love to reside. Roy, what do you have for us?
Victor Robles wore a clown nose in the dugout a day after Madison Bumgarner called him a clown for celebrating a home run.
Let's get that sound. We didn't play it yesterday. Stugotz was enjoying yesterday
Right.
anyone calling anyone else a clown. I saw over the weekend a good old-fashioned Nick Castellanos in the Phillies clubhouse signs a $100 million contract, calls a reporter's question stupid. I feel like that's dying a little bit. Zoom took that away from us, the ability for somebody to stand in front of his locker and make national news by calling one of us an idiot.
Aggressive PR guy jumped in the middle of it. So I was like, no, I think he answered your question. I think
It was
he
good
answered your question.
PRing
Yeah,
from
no, it was
that
great
guy.
PRing.
He got in there and
But the
he
reporter was like, it's not a stupid question. Just answer the question. It was
a good question.
It was 4 laps of.
Did you hear the booze was the
It was
question.
a dumb question.
But you missed it. It was a part of your life. You didn't think you would miss
Don't
it
we
until it
all
was
miss it?
gone.
Did you know it was endangered?
But I didn't know I would miss it until it was gone.
Did you know
Yes.
it was endangered? That one of the things with limited access, with Zoom, man, I think the future is going to have less and less access and more the illusions of these wired for sound accesses. I think these stars, these moments, franchises aren't going to let you near them. Like, they're not going to let Castellanos make something worse on $100 million because he's already feeling the pressure. He's called a reporter stupid. And now the reporter can, under his breath, while a PR guy is waving, all right, end of interview, he's saying, why is it a stupid question? It's not a stupid question.
Shouldn't that lead to reporters getting more aggressive with their questions? If they're not going to get the access anyway to one-on-one interviews or exclusive tidbits or anything from the team, they should just get more aggressive and say, well, You suck tonight. Tell us about it.
You thought it was a stupid question to ask him, did you hear the boos?
I think it's more, what was your reaction to the boos? Because everyone heard the boos. The question of, did you hear? Of course he did. But it's more like the follow-up is, so if Nick Castellanos says yes, that's a terrible answer. The follow-up is, well, then what was your reaction to the boos? Just start with, what was your reaction to your own fans booing
So you believe that Castellanos was criticizing his interview technique instead of, if he had asked more, if he was already agitated.
Question to ask, right? Like,
No.
yeah, I heard the no, I stand up there and I can't hear anything. Just
he could have claimed
get
that.
to the point. No, come on.
He could have claimed, I'm so focused on the game, I don't hear anything the crowd's saying.
When
He
there's
could have said
thousands
that.
of people booing you, you're not going to hear that?
Look, he should have just answered the damn question. Of course I heard the boos. I wasn't real pleased about it. They should support me. There's a million things he could have said instead of, that's a dumb question.
But you always come to it from the perspective of you doing your job and
Right.
not liking to be told. Yours is soaked. Your analysis on this is soaked in the narcissism of you hate it when an athlete tells you that your question is stupid.
Well, listen, if a major free agent signing in the middle of a disappointing season hears vociferous booing and is asked about it, that's a perfectly valid line of questioning from the media. Perfectly valid.
So it's either perfectly valid according to Cote or stupid according to Whittingham. What's the in between? Can it be somewhere in between?
Not in my mind.
Okay.
Not in my mind either.
All right,
Okay.
there we go. A standoff.
Well,
Billy.
he said Whitty is saying you the question is phrased wrong, and my attitude is whether it's phrased right or wrong.
Ask
stand
about the
up,
booing.
Stand up and answer the question.
Ask about the booing. He could have handled it more professionally, but he's mad because they were booing him.
Correct.
And no one likes to be a public failure at their job after signing for $100 million. Billy, what's the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
During Friday's 28-5 loss at the hands of the Blue Jays, a Red Sox fan in the fifth inning, while the Red Sox were down 25-3, decided to propose.
Oh no.
Ouch.
You gotta not do that.
Yeah, harbinger of a failed marriage.
You gotta, that is, put it on the poll, Guillermo. If you propose down 25-3, is that a harbinger of a failed marriage? Whittingham, funniest thing from the sports weekend.
On a similar front, all of the Boston Red Sox is defending this weekend.
All of it. Investigate the sky. Mike Ryan, funniest thing from the sports.
Boston Herald's doing that, by the way, Dan. I'll have an update for you by tomorrow.
Thank you.
You got it.
I get accused of shoehorning some politics into the discussion, so I will find a sports tie to this. Josh Hawley ran a 7.240 when running away from January 6th
That was
insurrectionists
funny.
after encouraging them with a fist up in the air.
And then this weekend said he will not cower, he will not run, correct?
Yeah.
Stugotz, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Jerry West just letting it fly on J.J. Redick. I mean, he has stopped caring, Jerry West, and he is letting people have it.
Does he care too little or does he care too much?
I guess he cares too much and too little. I mean, can you do that at the same time? Because I believe Jerry West is doing that. He has absolutely arrived at an age where he doesn't care what you think about Jerry West, I think.
I don't think that you can think that, though, when their portrayal of him on Winning Time has him threatening
for
to go
McKay.
to the
That he
Supreme
cares
Court.
about,
Like,
yes.
he clearly cares about something there.
Well, it's a bad portrayal. I mean,
This is not from sports, but I just read it over the weekend, and it made me laugh, that Jerry Seinfeld wanted to, this is from Uberfax, Jerry Seinfeld wanted to be on South Park, agreed to be on South Park, and they gave him the non-speaking part of Turkey number 2, whereupon he declined to be on South Park. But that's exactly how South Park should handle that situation. It was between that and Rudy Giuliani having code Rudy on a MyPillow discount for slippers. worth. You're not allowed to touch that, right? As an executive for the Jags? Okay.
Nope.
Yep.
If I ask you.
That would compete with Vince McMahon, and a lot of people laughed at him. And Vince McMahon left some openings for him to create a business that now works in the streaming age, where Tony Khan invented a second league to run opposite Vince McMahon, who you can't compete against because he had a monopoly, basically invented the sport. Tony Khan is with us now, and I want to talk to you about what Vince has done. You've always been very polite. Thank you for being on with us. You've never ripped them. You've been in competition with them, and you've been very gentle with them. But now Vince McMahon finds himself in what appears to be real trouble. I never thought he'd quit. Did you?
I did not. I did not ever think we'd see a world in which Vince McMahon would voluntarily step down. But I am also very excited about what's happening in the world of pro wrestling all over the world, including here in AEW. There are a lot of exciting things happening in the world of pro wrestling outside of those things you just mentioned. And right now with AEW, we've been working with wrestling companies all over the world, opening what I call the forbidden door, creating partnerships, doing things almost the exact opposite of the blueprint that he had set. And I really, hopefully it's a good thing for the wrestling industry now that changes.
The forbidden door. That sounds wonderful, the forbidden door. But what is the forbidden door you're opening there? Because wrestling is a lot of wrestling is going. I mean, hell, he was taking money. He was taking a good amount of blood money.
Well, the forbidden door is working together with other wrestling promotions or bringing in wrestlers or people that would normally not work together. So, for example, we've worked really closely with New Japan Pro Wrestling overseas, with AAA Lucha Libre in Mexico, and we've brought in a lot of their wrestlers, and we've sent a lot of our great stars down to them, and it's been like a talent trade, a partnership, and it's not like me trying to run them out of business or screw them over. We've had some really good collaborations, and in addition to international wrestling promotions, some of the smaller domestic wrestling companies that have a lot of great things to offer, we've worked with some of them, and then another wrestling company that had been around for 20 years was called Ring of Honor. And a lot of their stars had frankly migrated to AEW or WWE. And they had run shows through the pandemic, tried to keep the company going. It was owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. And that company had hit tough times. So I purchased that company earlier this year and have reimagined and relaunched that company. And Ring of Honor is also working with AEW. So AEW has partners all over the world. And it's almost the opposite philosophy as a lot of the wrestling fans who watch your show, or even Mike in the studio could tell you there, the way that the empire of the WWF was built, the WWF crushed a lot of wrestling promotions in its wake. And, my goal is hopefully to keep a lot of wrestling promotions around the world alive and working with AEW and supporting wrestling all over the world.
Tony, have you ever had any sort of interaction with Vince? I'm wondering if you have, and if you had, how'd it go?
No, I've never met him in my life.
No?
Not once ever.
Okay. Bad question. Well, especially when the answer's no.
Right.
I was hoping for an interaction where he just crushed you.
Yeah. Tony could have made up a good answer, but he chose not to.
Yeah, he did.
Well, you want me to lie?
Responsible. I mean,
that's why you guys like me.
Well, how does he feel about you, or how do you imagine he feels about you? Because you are a competitor, and look, it's real interesting at the end to see that because his company lagged creatively, he left you an opening. Because his company lagged in signing some of his stars, he left you an opening. Does he hate you?
I don't know about that. They definitely are probably focused on their own stuff right now, and there's a lot of positive things happening around their company too. So, with the changes that have been made, honestly, now he's probably not the person I'm thinking about so much anymore because he's not in the chair anymore. And for a long time, he was in the chair, and I think nobody's ever had a run like the one he's had. But there are a lot of other smart people in that business, and I'm sure they're going to rebound and do a lot of good things. For us, it's a big week. We've got our show on TBS this week, Fight for the Fallen, and it's one of our biggest events of the year. And with a lot of big championship matches, also one of the biggest stars in modern pro wrestling, Bryan Danielson, is coming back this week, tomorrow night on Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS. Bryan Danielson, somebody who's really well known, not just to the AEW fans, but also the WWE fans. And really, if there's ever been an example of the wrestling fans rallying around a wrestler and telling the promotion, honestly, specifically telling Vince McMahon that, hey, this guy is a star, you need to get behind him and book him in the big matches, give him these opportunities, he's going to come through. And that's Bryan Danielson. He's come to AEW now. He's one of our great stars. He's been out injured for 2 months, and his comeback match is tomorrow night. So there's a lot of exciting things happening in wrestling, including in AEW, but certainly everybody in wrestling is probably also keeping an eye on those changes you're asking about.
You're doing something real interesting here, and I'm going to make you stop doing it right now, all right? You've promoted your stuff, and I know how great your stuff is. We've promoted your stuff as well. I want to know about the legacy of McMahon. I want to know if you expect that business to be sold. I want to know what competition is going to look like for you the next 5 years. As you say, you're buying businesses to support this project of yours. Like, are you coming for them?
Are you asking me, am I interested in buying them?
Start there.
I don't know. I don't want to piss off the SEC, and I have to be really careful what I say about publicly traded companies. I mean, I don't know if they're for sale. If they were, I think there'd be a lot of very interested parties and a lot of people who had the financial capital. So it would certainly be something to keep an eye on if the price was right, like it was with Ring of Honor. But it would be a very, very different price, I assure you. And that being said, I keep an eye on the competition, but for us, it's interesting because wrestling in the 90s was ultra competitive because the shows were on at the exact same time. You had Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro on head to head. It's not really like that now. And the wrestling world, it's not necessarily something where if they do a good rating, it's bad for us, or if we do a good rating, it's bad for them. It's a bit more of a world where people can coexist now than it was 20, 25 years ago.
Tony, a lot of the wrestlers that you've signed that have come from WWE have had a lot to say in interviews about the culture over at WWE, about the cult of personality that Vince McMahon was. Now that he's out of the way and they're bringing in a new era, are you kind of worried that WWE will be a legitimate competitor, even more so for some of the talent that you're eyeing?
Yeah, I do think that's a possibility, but the good news for me is a lot of the talent you're probably thinking of have really long contracts. So I bet there's a couple names you're going to ask me about or you're even thinking of.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
5 years.
Ask some of the names. Is there tampering in this sport?
No. I mean, FTR have been very public about their problems, and they, if you saw, like prior to this amazing run that they're going on in ring, where they're certifiably the best tag team in the world, it felt like one of the members publicly I'm not putting words in his mouth, publicly shared some frustration about how things were going about their run prior to this amazing launch pad that they went on with AEW. So many
That was
people,
a real thing.
Yeah.
That was a real thing. And Dax had a hard year last year, and he's also been really open about that. Mike, you probably saw the press conference we did the other night. So I think it's come across the last few pay-per-views. I think I built a really close relationship with both of them. And I really, really like Dax and Cash both very much. And I always have. Dax had a tough year last year. And also, as the company was going through a transition with CM Punk coming in, Bryan Danielson coming in, Adam Cole coming in, it was an exciting year. And as the company was changing, their place in the company changed, and honestly, for the better.
Yeah.
And I was talking to them. You remember when they did the thing when they won the Lucha Libre AAA belts and they snuck up on the luchadors with the green masks, the frog masks?
Yes.
That was really me trying to start something new. And that was, even though that hasn't definitely not been the best thing they did in the last year, it was something different, and it got them moving in a different direction. And then since then, they've done a lot of really exciting things. They won the AAA tag belts, and then they've gone on this run of winning championships around the world in New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor, and chasing all the gold. And I think this has been the run of their careers. Dax individually has also been in some great singles matches. Cash, we saw a great match with Jeff Cobb, but Dax has had a run of great singles matches against a lot of our best wrestlers. The team is firing on all cylinders better than they ever have. So I think the three of us are happier working together than we ever have been. And probably the only time it was ever really a rough patch, I really thought, was a year ago. And that was probably a mix of, I think Dax needed to get himself better, feeling better. Like I don't want to put words in his mouth because he said all this, even just Saturday night, that, he wasn't feeling well and talked about getting on medication and seeing a doctor. And then when he really got himself right, I've been more focused on them than I had been. And I think the last year they've been doing better than ever.
Briefly, we'll get into some Jags questions because there's an ongoing beef on the show with Tony Baselli, who I know you know very well. It was reported over the weekend that you got into a heated backstage discussion with the former ROH champion, who then later requested his release, according to reports. And now a lot of Triple H has a lot of personal relationships, being that he ran developmental. Are you legitimately concerned that people are going to start looking at WWE and start asking for their releases a little bit more?
It depends on who it is, and it depends on who the person is, if I would grant them their release or not. But I don't think those two situations had anything to do with each other. Keep an eye on it. I don't think that's going to be dots that will connect. And I definitely think that it's probably going to be a change in the management philosophy. I would totally think. That being said, I'm not sure it's going to be a bad thing for AEW, but I do think it'll be a good thing for the wrestling fans because the competition is going to change, and probably in a way that will be good for the fans.
Tony, true or false question. In 10 years, does Tony Khan think he might be presiding over all of wrestling?
No, probably not. I think that there will always be multiple wrestling promotions, and that's part of why I came along, is because really no one person should be presiding all over all of wrestling. And I've almost gone to a great lengths to make sure there are other viable wrestling promotions all over the planet by sending all wrestlers and, exchanging videos and working together. So I definitely don't want that. I think it would be great if there are wrestling companies all over the world working together. And I would like for AEW to eventually be the number one wrestling company in the world. That is my dream. But right now, I'm also very happy with our place in the space. When we launched this promotion, and I think I may have said this to you like over 2 years ago, probably close to 3 years ago, Dan, when I launched this, I told my dad and also the people at TBS and TNT, what if I told you that we could be the Pepsi of pro wrestling, a multi-billion-dollar industry that is pro wrestling, and we could be a very large player in it, a challenger brand, not just a challenger brand, but a really, really strong challenger brand. And people ask me why, sometimes I would even talk about the competition. Well, part of it is I have to get good interviews because I want to be on great shows like yours, Dan, and you're going to ask me about them. So I can't just dance around it and get boring answers. So I in promoting my own show tomorrow night on TBS, with AEW, I also am going to have to answer some spicy questions and talk about them. So I know that's part of how it goes. But, you know, another reason is when I got started with this, I got handed a book about marketing from Warner Brothers before the merger, before Discovery came in and took over the management. And they talked to me about being a challenger brand. What is a challenger brand? Is that a term you guys have heard much? You guys familiar with that?
No, I have not heard that much. But what you're saying is there's plenty of room at the trough for Pepsi. Pepsi makes plenty of money.
Well, they told me, they showed me different examples. Pepsi's one way to go. Another one they showed me is Burger King, who are a very aggressive challenger brand. Now, what is Burger King's marketing? It's basically McDonald's sucks, guys. Like, that's basically what their marketing is. And that's a challenger brand in a lot of ways, and that's one way to do it. I try to make our challenger brand more about what we're doing at AEW and not about smearing the competition, because a lot of times they do good things. You can't say that everything they do is bad. That would be total BS. So I really, you know, even though I am here to talk about AEW, I definitely find myself answering questions about who we challenge.
Well, I'm doing this, though, because you care about this sport. You know what just happened this week, Tony. I mean, Vince McMahon was you before you, and you've chosen to do it a different way. Like you
probably put a lot of words in my mouth, my friend, that I would not say he and I, he was me or I am him, or
I'm just saying that he is the head of a wrestling brand, and you have decided to do it differently than him. He was very much in front of the camera as a character, and you philosophically, emotionally, spiritually have learned what not to do. You never say that, but I can put those words in your mouth because you're talking about the spirit of camaraderie, and Vince McMahon would probably tell you to go bleep yourself, that he doesn't want to be comrades with you.
That is probably true. But it's a new day. As they would say, and you know, I'm looking forward to competition going forward. I have you know, nice things to say generally about their management now. So at least on the wrestling side.
Percentage of chance Tony Khan owns WWE in 5 years as well, or 10 years.
It's in the eye of the beholder. It's like you asking me if we're going to trade for a player on another team. That is completely up to another party. Just like if they wanted to sell their company, you know, I am a person here whose family would potentially have the money to look at it. But on the other hand, they might not have any interest in doing that. And I wouldn't blame them. I have no interest in selling AEW. We have no interest in selling any of our sports teams.
But Tony, didn't you think, though, I thought, you tell me, you're more informed than me. You know business better and wrestling. Did you not think that the reason he jumped ship is because they've got to get to the price point that they want to get to, and he would never have left otherwise, that they have to strip it down and make it maximum value? Isn't that what they're in the process of?
I think the best thing for me to do to avoid getting into a very sticky amount of trouble here would be having Mike. Mike, you're a third party. Mike, why don't you get the explanation here so I don't get all the heat?
It's a good job out of you, Tony.
It should be noted, though, that it is a publicly traded company, which is why there are potholes for Tony Khan. But it does also open up the door for a wrestling storyline type hostile takeover, such as Elon Musk.
It's unbelievable. Can you believe? Imagine.
You just show up live from Daytona via simulcast.
There's
saying
no hostile takeover. It says like 80% of the voting stock. Like, there's no hostile takeover. I mean, like they, you know, it's a totally different thing than you know, like an episode of Succession where the company's you know, it's in play and they only have 30-something% of the stock. Like, I mean, he holds all the cards here. I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens going forward. But, you know, that being said, I think for the wrestling fans, it's not going to be a bad thing.
Tony, break some music news here, because I have spent more time at Dead & Company shows than I have in this studio this summer. And for those who don't know, Tony owns the agency that manages Dead & Company. And this is before we get to the Jags and Dan's bashing of Tony Baselli. Calm Deadhead fans down. Is Dead & Company breaking up or not? I need to know.
I don't
you.
think that's the case. I would know. I definitely don't think that. Why do you think that?
Because I hear rumors. I feel like Mayor might be tired. I know Bill's not feeling well, and it's my favorite band. It's my favorite thing to go do. My wife has, you know, become a fan of them as well, and I just don't want him to go away. Listen, it's not the Dead, but it's the closest damn thing I've ever heard to the Grateful Dead. So,
well, I hope they're together for a long time.
Okay, but you said they will be, right?
That's my hope. Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. I don't see why they wouldn't be. I got to get Bernie on this. Bernie would be great. He's our actual manager.
All right. I'll talk to Bernie.
Let's.
You got. It's you boys.
I've seen a few shows with Bern.
I need Stugotz Gemalo to back away from the microphone
This
here.
is important, Dan.
I understand. You've asked enough Dead and Company questions.
You asked enough follow-ups on WWE.
One dead.
Well, because I think this guy's going to be running the sport soon. That's why. It's because if he's not already, he told us 3 years ago. He promised us 3 years ago that he was going to build this, and it's all gone faster than he thought. It's been more successful than he thought. In the streaming age, you've got a competitive wrestling company, and your family has some of the rare football money needed to make purchases like this. There aren't that many who can.
That's true. I think one of the reasons the company was together, so strong through this all was the pandemic really helped the company come together and brought a lot of the wrestlers and staff together. And also, Dan, you don't seem like, I think I gave this analogy to you once in our personal lives, but I don't think I've ever done this on the show before. Do you remember the Star Trek analogy I gave you? I don't remember if you're a big Star Trek guy.
I am not, but I remember you talking about Star Trek. Yes. What was the analogy?
Yes. It was the Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. I'm looking at the guys in the studio, and some of them seem to be familiar with what I'm about to say. If there's a scene in The Wrath of Khan where Captain Kirk, the Enterprise, they're like completely outgunned. Their opponent has a lot more equipment. Their shields, their weapons are better. They're less beat up. And they go into this nebula because in the nebula, nobody will be able to see anything. None of their stuff's going to work. And it kind of evened the odds. And I felt like that was a lot of the shutdown for AEW. I think creatively, it really leveled the playing field for us in a lot of ways.
Did you know that Ricardo Montalban had a prosthetic chest in that movie? That chest was not real. You knew this? You knew this, did you?
Yeah, I did, but I don't. So if you don't like Star Trek, how did you know that?
Well, just because I remember the steamy Corinthian leather that was his hairy chest.
What are you guys talking about?
The Wrath of Khan. It was the best of those movies. That's from Seinfeld. The thing going on in the business, Dan, it's been a lot of change in the last few years, but that's something the wrestling business needed. I think it was very stagnant for over 15 years, and I think the growth of AEW has been a really good thing, and hopefully there'll be a lot of good changes around the industry. But when you ask me about like what's going to happen with their company or what's going to happen, I think it's a lot of times in sports, if there's an aggrieved party, if there's like changes in an organization, people are always looking at trade destinations, free agent destinations. But, it always takes at least two parties to make a deal. And I think in this case, the family that owns that company has a long, long history, generations in the wrestling business, and they probably will have generations more in the wrestling business.
30 seconds or less. McMahon legacy.
Grew the wrestling business on television more than anybody else ever has. And the growth that he helped launch in this business as a television industry is probably more than everybody else in the history of the wrestling business combined. And I don't think I'd be understating it to say that he was has been one of the most influential figures in American entertainment. And whether you consider wrestling a sport or not, I think in the world of sports, he's also been one of the most influential people. Ask any athlete on the planet, and they all are very familiar with his product.
Tony, I'll allow you to respond to this. Dan put up a poll question saying that he thinks that no Jacksonville Jaguar should ever be allowed in the Hall of Fame. Your thoughts?
Well, that's ridiculous. And now, thankfully, they didn't go with Dan's take on it because Tony Baselli is, of course, in the Hall of Fame, and we got the Hall of Fame game coming up next week. Dan, are you coming?
Stugotz is negotiating to come with Baselli.
Wait, how is Dan getting the invite? I got Baselli in the Hall of Fame. I think all Jaguars should be in the Hall of Fame. Dan, you could be my +1. I mean, how about that? Tony will get his friends and family tickets.
Are you going up, Tony? We go up on the private plane and we'll do Baselli's after party, you and me?
Yeah, you know what? Come to Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS in Columbus next week, and then we can drive over to Canton together on Thursday for the game.
All right, I'm in. And I got a directee now. I mean, how about that?
This is the backstory, okay, Tony? We love Baselli here. You can't repeat it. You can't listen to me. You can't repeat this to anybody. It has to be our secret, okay?
We're on TV.
No, well, whatever. No,
Tony, between us.
No, but Jacksonville Jags fans don't understand what we were doing yesterday. Stugotz is trying to strong arm his way into friends and family in Baselli's circle on Saturday night. He's trying to make all sorts of demands. He wants flight arrangements. He wants all sorts of deals, and he wants Baselli to mention him in the speech. And so because Baselli isn't answering and is calling me an ass, I threatened him by saying that Stugotz was going to revoke a Hall of Fame membership that Stugotz got him in the first place. I was going to do it by saying no Jacksonville Jags and mounting that campaign. So as a wrestling fan, I'm going to put up billboards in Canton and Jacksonville that say Baselli is not a Hall of Famer.
I don't think that's a good idea, Dan. I don't think you want to be there.
And Jacksonville.
It's funny. Put them up there too. You don't think it's funny now? Jacksonville came after us. They're poisonous. I did not know
they came after you.
Well, but it's not my fault. You're saying it's me, but it's your fault. I was doing it as a joke.
Well, I think the people in Jacksonville are very proud of Tony Baselli and his accomplishments, and they should be. We're all really proud of Tony. He's a great person, and he's a legend in Jacksonville football, USC football, and it was really special that his Hall of Fame induction came the year of the LA Super Bowl, that we were able to celebrate Tony getting into the Hall of Fame at USC on his campus. It was awesome.
Stugotz, why did you leave my side so quickly there and announce that all Jags should be in the Hall of Fame?
I got carried away. I mean, Tony's on. I got carried away.
Toby Gerhart a bust in Canton.
Perhaps we draw the line at Toby Gerhart. Okay?
All Jags should be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, Jimmy Smith should be in.
There are other Jags who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Name one.
Who are the only two players in the history of the National Football League ever to carry the ball over 2,500 times? And who are the only two to ever maintain an average over 4.6 yards per carry?
Fred Taylor's a Hall of Famer, but Baselli's not.
Thank you. Barry Sanders and Fred Taylor was the answer to that question. So you knew that.
It was Toby Gebhart.
Gerhart.
Whatever. Hall of Famer.
Tony, thank you for being on with us, sir.
Jimmy Smith,
we appreciate it. I hope it wasn't too much of a bad drink. Good talking to you, and we'll figure out how Stugotz will stand you up on his way to Canton.
No, that's great. I wanted to come back, and I'd love to be here for a Game Notes again sometime. Game Notes is the highlight of my week.
Well, thank you, Tony. Private jet to Canton, me and you. What do you think?
Let's just sit there, and I'll do the beep. The whole.
I'll do them live in the PJ if you want. Yeah, I will do them the entire flight if you would like that, huh? I will. Just for you. A show just for you.
A little private show.
PJ observations. How about that?
PJ. Was longer than the flight from Columbus to Canton, so I think I'm going to drive, pal, and save some jet fuel.
See you later, Tony.
We'll drive together. Road trip.
Before you go, I'm going to include you in on this bit of news here. You're going to enjoy it because this is going to thrill Mike Ryan. And I can't believe it's this easy after the pandemic and vaccines and everything else and arguing in public and stupidities. Aaron Rodgers has got me back.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
It was a hell of a welcome into training camp.
It's just how he walked in. Have you heard how he walked into training camp? Because Mike Ryan was saying how jacked he was in Tahoe, and now he walked in looking purposely. What is the name of the character in Con Air, Mike, that Nick Cage played? It's Cameron.
Cameron Poe.
Yeah. Cameron Poe, July 14th.
He's walked into camp as Cameron Poe from Con Air, and that's it. Like, my every principle goes out the window. That's funny. He's in costume.
I can tell you this, though. Aaron doesn't want you back.
I know.
You might be back, but he wants nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it was a pretty cold welcoming to Tahoe that
was
we got
icy,
courtesy
Dan.
of Aaron Rodgers.
I lose again.
He's okay with me, by the way.
And how great is that, Tony? How great is it to walk into camp making fun of everybody as Cameron Poe, one of Nicolas Cage's best characters that doesn't involve, a pig.
Yeah, I definitely think it was great. Great. I haven't seen it yet, but Con Air is definitely one of the best Nick Cage movies. I think the only thing he could have done that would have been better if he produced a twin brother like adaptation. Mike could have walked in with him. People say Mike looks like Aaron Rodgers, so he could have brought a Donald.
Question: do you call your private jet Con Air?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You do, don't
Amazing.
you? Con Air.
Can't wait to fly
I
that
didn't
thing.
that name, but after post Con Air, I felt like there's not a lot of options.
Yeah, you have to.
That's pretty good right there. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. You are our second favorite con in wrestling.
What?
I'll see you next week, Tom.
See you later.
It was half of our agent.
Nick Khan is running the whole place now. How did that happen? See you later.
Thought we were friends.
We are, Tony, me and you. See you next week.
You and me are.
But I was his client.
Billy, what has been negotiated now? What are we doing with Baselli? Are we gonna put up billboards? Are we going by private jet? What are we negotiating here? Stugotz says he wants to hold signs up in the friends and family that just say Le Batard is an ass.
Yeah.
He wants to make the entire
They bash you and Bruce Smith.
Well, it seems like you will be going, and Stugotz will not be
That's
going.
hilarious that Dan got the invite.
It is.
Great.
Which would you want to go to less, Dan? The Hall of Fame or an AEW event?
In Columbus.
Or just Ohio.
Ohio's
They're both
a
in
great
Ohio.
joke.
Sorry.
Do you think Tony Khan just knew that the Jags were going to play in the Hall of Fame? He was like, I'll just schedule a show in Columbus. That's the marketing strategy for AEW is just what's closest to the next thing I got to be at.
Yeah, and next year he's got to be there for LeBrandon Tofield's induction.
Would you put Jaguars in the Cat Hall of Fame?
Ooh, 100%.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I don't
They
know.
have to be.
yeah.
First ballot, I think.
yeah.
First ballot Cat Hall of Fame.
Is
at
there a big
Jaguars?
cat?
yeah.
Is there a big cat wing?
No, it's all the same. Just general
Galarraga.
cats.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, so who's going in the Big Cat Hall of Fame? It's Andres Galarraga. Wasn't there was another big cat? There have been a couple of big cats as nicknames. Have there not been, or is Galarraga the only one?
I think it's just Galarraga.
No. In the Hall of Fame, who do you got, Billy?
You have
Cats?
multiple big cats?
There's a lot of cats. There's Ernest the Cat Miller, Julie the Cat Gaffney.
You've got leopards, jaguars, and cougars, correct, Billy?
Well, tigers I would put in before all of those.
Lions and tigers, first ballot.
First ballot.
So you don't have Jags in the Hall of Fame, so no Jags of any
Not
kind
first
in any Hall of
ballot.
Fame.
Second ballot.
Maybe. I could be talked into it, maybe. I think.
I'm looking at a list of the top 8 deadliest cats, and Jaguars don't even make the list.
Top 8 deadliest cats. Number 8, Chris Whittingham.
The bobcat.
What do you mean give you a break?
Small. Too small
They
to
are
be
too
dangerous.
small. Way too small. Jaguars way bigger.
Size of a
And
dog.
again, it's not about the size of the prey; it's about the
size
success
of the
rate.
fight.
Whittingham, that thing will grab you by the neck and climb you up a tree. Give me a break.
Number 7, Tony, very aggressively pro big
Yeah,
cat.
he is.
What's the comment? I don't even understand it.
The tiger.
Number 7
Wow.
is the tiger. Number
That's too
7.
low.
Go Tigers.
Disrespect.
5 to 10% success rate.
Number 6.
Puma.
Nice. Good
Okay.
sneaker.
You know
Puma.
exactly what you're doing.
Puma.
You asshole.
That's just
What's wrong with you?
assholery.
Puma.
Just straight assholery. Puma was so unnecessary. Look at him. He's just laughing at himself because of what an asshole he is.
Dan, Dan, I've been around him a lot. He does Nike instead of Nike, and he does Adidas. He does Adidas instead of Adidas.
Straight asshole.
Nike.
It's unbelievable. That Puma, you couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't. Number 5 is lion.
You ain't lying.
No, God.
He was so proud of it. He was waiting on it.
For sure
He
that was coming.
Yeah.
It's like I traveled back from the future to know that you were going to say he
Even
ain't
if lion
lying.
wasn't
you.
one of them, he was
Yeah.
going to say it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. You haven't
He
said
did
it.
his job.
You
I'm
haven't-
just kidding around.
He's back.
Look at that.
Number 4.
The domesticated cat.
No,
Let's get
come
outta
on. You
here.
can't
That cat's
have
not
a
that big. I mean,
domesticated
come on, what's going
cat
on
over
here?
a tiger.
This is a 32% success rate in hunting its prey.
What are they,
This
Siamese?
is on
Success rates
A to
of
Z
what?
animals.com.
Wow.
But what are they
just-
being successful
He
at?
just said killing. He just said tiger was 5 to 10% kill rate.
There's Dan Cats
Oh,
from Part of My Take. He's a big
Oh
cat.
yeah.
John the Cats.
Good shout.
What else do you have there?
Number 3 is leopard.
Leopard, pumas, jaguars.
Number 2 is cheetah.
Oh, yeah. Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Steve Martin.
Oh my God, you were
Oh,
too slow.
no.
I was looking
You
up
were
cats.
too slow.
I know.
Greg Cote
He
was
got me.
better. It's
What an
Stugotz.
embarrassing
It's
day.
Stugotz.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Should be
You
ashamed
were
of
so
yourself.
lazy. Your window was left open, and Cody got to it
Oh,
first.
my God.
Holy
I'm so
shit.
sorry.
You ain't lying.
Wow.
Boom, I'm
Oh,
back.
wow.
Yes.
Number 2,
Number 1 is the black-footed cat.
Christmas.
What?
I had some big cats in sports. Nicknames here. Johnny Bench was named the big
What?
cat. Yep. Yep.
No
This is real
way.
Wikipedia. Yeah.
That doesn't count.
No way.
That
Hard
doesn't
to
count.
believe. Never heard him called that.
Never.
Ernie Ladd. Ernie Ladd was called the big cat. Yeah. Yeah. Leon Lett.
Really?
Jamal McGlure.
Wrong way let.
Oh, that's right. McGlure, not a big
yes.
cat Hall of Famer though, right? Because I don't have McGlure as I've got him as a one-time All-Star.
Mm-hmm. Johnny Mize.
The big cat.
Oh, yeah.
Rayfield Wright.
The big cat.
And Andre Vasilevsky.
The big cat.
He shows up as Cameron Poe, Mike.
Yeah.
He
meant
shows
to
up
do it.
in tank top.
Tank top
It's
tucked
great.
into the jeans.
Yeah.
Dead giveaway. He should have had a bunny.
That's funny.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Showing up at camp because his hair is greasy now. It's not just that. He's doing Cameron Poe on the plane. He's not doing Cameron Poe civilized person. He's doing the guy who took over Con Air.
Yeah. Well, who saved us all from Con Air.
Yeah.
I'm still very confused about how Cyrus landed in a pile driver.
The virus did land in a pile driver. Didn't he also fall on glass? Didn't he even Stugotz, you're moving so slow.
I am stuck on cats right now. I really am.
He got flung from a fire
From the
engine.
side.
Yeah,
From the side.
and he landed
was
off
killed-
of the old Vegas Strip.
No, he was killed 3 different cliched ways. He fell from a great height onto a spike. There was a pile driver, and also he was on something with the fire truck. It almost hit a bridge or something. Did it not? Was he not just going real fast and he hit the bridge while on the ladder?
He's on the fire engine ladder down Fremont Street, and apparently there's this big dump next to Fremont Street. He gets flung from the fire engine and lands on a conveyor belt right directly under a pile driver, which crushes his head.
Did he fall on a spiked thing, or did he not fall on a spiked
No.
thing?
He fell on the conveyor belt, and then his face got crushed by the pile driver.
No, he was stabbed with a broken axe by Nicolas Cage on the fire engine.
He let out a good quality yell.
Yeah, he looked up to him like, ah! That yell was like 8 seconds.
It was John Malkovich.
Yeah, John Malkovich, yeah.
Which not exactly somebody that you would associate with villainy of the highest order.
That's me. Maybe in a Shakespeare movie, but that's about it. Yeah.
I associate him with villainy a lot.
Yeah.
Very evil man. I think privately, too.
Ooh.
Stugotz.
He has a lair in his home. Just going to say that. I'm going to throw that out.
Malkovich?
John Malkovich has a lair.
You're stating that as fact?
Yeah, I think
Really?
he and
I'm
Willem
with you.
Dafoe have lairs.
I'm with you.
Defoe, definitely.
Nicolas Cage has to have a lair.
Yes,
no?
of course.
Right, that
He's
goes without
procured
saying.
several
Yeah.
across the world.
He must.
Yes.
Who else are we going with? Do you think that Keitel?
Harvey Keitel?
Harvey Keitel?
No.
No.
A dungeon. He's got a dungeon.
No, I don't think so. No.
A lair. So what is in the lair? A velvety couch? A couch? Like what do you?
No, fossils. Torturing
Yeah,
devices.
torture
like a
chamber.
A solid
A night
torture
suit.
rack.
A rack.
Yeah, night
Right.
suit. Yeah.
Oh wait a minute. That's Arthur Blank's house. Has the night suit.
Well,
the
he
He has
full
a
probably has a
night.
lair.
lair.
He has a lair.
That's a haunted mansion. That's a different.
Oh yeah, that's different. That's different. You're right. You're absolutely right.
This is the entrance to Arthur Blank's house. You don't enter into a lair. A lair's in like a side room.
A lair needs to have a bookshelf as the door,
Yeah.
and you pull out one of the books.
And there's a smell.
Secret door.
And
like
always
in the haunted
smoke.
mansion. Yeah.
What does it smell like? The bat feces that McGill was talking
Guano.
about? An acidic, terrible smell that rots your house.
Guano,
Mothballs.
ammonia.
Who else has a lair?
You're very upset about Blank's house.
Well, but I just feel like at the entrance, his was a fashionable house and it gave off 1800s, maybe a little medieval. And in the center of the house, near a couch that was velvety and covered in plastic, was we agreed on this, was a knight. And that's why the house was haunted. And that's why Arthur Blank
we agreed.
looks like we did agree on
No,
all
you're
of this.
right. We did agree.
We agreed on all
Maybe
of
there's
this.
an update.
And it wasn't a lair. And you can't if a guy's got a knight in the living room, it's different than having a secret compartment or a bookcase or something else. These are two different things.
What's the color of the couch?
I was thinking red,
Gotta be red.
Yes, absolutely.
or velvet, or like a purple or a mahogany, a burgundy of some sort.
Crushed velvet.
We agreed on all this.
It's mahogany. That's a fun.
What did I say?
Sometimes you pull
Velvet.
down the sword of the knight, and then that leads you to
secret
like a
entrance.
secret
Correct.
lair.
Secret room.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who's
So
got
lay inside the haunted
those?
mansion,
Who's
yes.
got those? So give me those now. You've got Malkovich, you got Nicolas Cage.
Thad Mata.
Why does that Mata have a
I think Mike's right.
lair? What do
You know it when you hear
mean? What-
Yeah.
do you?
Yep.
Sure.
Does Dan Dockich have a lair?
No.
No.
He's got a broken garage door that he can't close, and he just drinks beer all. Well, actually, that's
a man
Greg
cave.
Cote.
It's Greg Cote.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. I don't have a lair. Charlie Sheen has a lair.
I don't know.
No, he's got a sex dungeon. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
different?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sex dungeon. Yeah,
Are they
yeah,
different
yeah,
things?
Yeah. Like, for example, Quinn Snyder, no lair. Sex dungeon.
All right. Did someone say Urban Meyer?
Yes, Tony
Both.
shouted it.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good one.
He
Yeah.
has both.
Quinn Snyder, you guys need to look at photographs that are now circulating of what Quinn Snyder looked like when he took over the Jazz, and the hollowed out shell of Jazz basketball that has stolen his soul to make him someone who looks like an artifact. He was a boy wonder, and the Utah Jazz in 9 years of getting like
Like doing morning radio.
deep into the playoffs as he rubbed his lips with chapstick. That man has aged, and it's a mummification how much he's aged. He came into the league as a spry young man, and the stress, you can see it on his face. It's worn. He's
all those
aged
uniforms.
25 years.